bet you the bill's on the back.
The bill's on the back.
Actually, this sort of is, if you do the history, this is the order of battle for Iraq or Afghanistan or something. So I actually made a lot of these. And actually, a lot of people don't know this, but when I first met Howard, it was after an hour and a half grilling by David Capania to basically get hired at DOF. And I'm like, oh God, I'm glad that management stuff is over with. At least when someone is going to ask me technical questions, it's sort of either you know the answer or you don't. And Howard did the tech interview. And for the first 30 or so minutes, I absolutely despised this. I was interviewing for the director of Microsoft Platform Services, and the first question out of his mouth, besides, hey, how are you, that type of thing, the first real question was, what's the difference between a QSAM and VSAM file? And all of you in here either know the answer now or you've known it for a very long time. I have no idea.
The first letter?
So after,
I'm on Microsoft.
yeah, exactly. After about 4 of those questions, I had 2 thoughts in my mind. One was, wake up. Because I'm sure that this was a nightmare. The second was, did he even read the job posting? So I went through that. I'm trying to figure out a passive way of changing the direction of this interview because it wasn't going well at all. And he went into, lucky for me, he went into teacher mode. He got up on the board and started drawing things. And I know probably Dewitt had the exact same reaction that I did. He started drawing on the board and he started teaching me about the mainframe in my tech interview. So I was like, this is hopeless. I'll just go with it. And he's like, you have a really distinctive accent. I'm like, well, that's a strange comment. I've never had that observation in an interview before. He's like, where are you from? If you don't mind me asking. He's trying to be polite and everything.
Of course.
So I'm like, well, I'm from southern Indiana, just north of Louisville, Kentucky. And I'm from the most sparsely populated county in the entire state of Indiana. And right off the bat, he's like, Pekin? To give you guys an idea, this is a town of 3,000 people, and the nearest town is 10 miles away. And I was like, how in the, Intel background, David Capania doesn't know this stuff, and I'm like, how in the hell did he figure this out? And I've come to find out he told me he's from Mitchell, which is like, 25, 30 miles away?
30 miles away.
It gets deeper. He's like, you remind me of someone that was in the Army at Fort Knox in the late 70s, early 80s. I'm like, well, it wasn't me because that'd have to be like 9 years.
Thank you, Doc.
He's like, he looks exactly like you, has the same sort of demeanor. I'm like, was he like 5'10" and had this inch and a half long scar on his face? Yeah. And he's like, that guy was a real dick.
Wasn't quite the word I used. Started with a P, but it rhymed with that.
Yeah, exactly. I stand corrected. I'm like, would that be Sergeant Major Ron Davis? And I realized he forgot my name. That's it. I remember that guy. He was a holy terror. And he went on and on and on. I'm like, yep. He's like, how did you remember him? I'm like, well, he got out of the military and he went to FedEx and he became aircraft maintenance director and all this. He's like, how do you know so much about him? I'm like, he's my father. This is true. I mean, it is. That was the first 30 minutes of my tech interview. David comes back and after an hour, Howard's like, wave off. This went on for 2 hours. He finally switched to .NET, which is what I was being hired for, and I was able to answer those questions. But so, in all honesty, my relationship with Howard hasn't really changed that much. It's gone from complete and total, Bob knows this because I've gone to Bob meetings, complete and total irritation because he's completely stubborn and unflexible, to completely flexible, and I just don't understand. He's an extremely complex, intelligent person. Probably the most complex, intelligent person I've ever dealt with, and especially, I thought I was the smartest one from my area, but Howard got here first.
I paid him.
So obviously, I'm going to miss them, and I mean miss them, and everyone knows here what Howard has done. I think he's basically changed our minds on a number of things. He, nudged us in a new direction. And I don't think we really know what the results of that's going to be yet. Maybe a couple years down the road we'll know. So that's pretty much it from Who's Next.
Thank you. Just one comment was,
oh my God.
When I interviewed him, I was heading to Bob's office, and David came out and saw me and said, "Hey, could you come here and interview this guy? No knowledge, no reading. We're going to hire him for .NET." So I just walked in, no knowledge of who this guy was, nothing. And he got my second question, my mainframe question. I was very impressed.
Oh, what was that? I thought I got them all wrong.
What's a two-phase commit?
Oh, I did get that one.
Mainframe question.
Well, but what's a two-phase commit?
Not a .NET question.
No, it is. It is a .NET question. That's the only reason I do it. It might be the one thing that they have in common.
But he can answer it in one sentence, which is really, really good.
When two servers agree that an event has occurred.
Okay, my first encounter with Howard was, I think after David Hirsch ran to Howard and says, "Don't anybody touch your computer, they just crash mine."
I was.
Okay, now I was down in the server room building out a new server, and basically I got a call, I forgot from who, and they says, "Can you go add Howard's laptop to the domain?" I said, "Sure, no problem. I've done it hundreds of times, no brainer." I go finish the whole thing. Howard chases me and says, "I can't do anything on my computer. I have no admin rights."
on my own notebook. Yeah, my own microphone.
So I go, I give you local admin rights, and then I think, well, a few days later you call and say, "I can't do anything again, you lost it."
Yep.
So basically, finally, I think George and Peter approved that, said since it's Howard's laptop, just to be used on finance domain, he can have local admin rights. What was it, like a week later, 2 weeks later, George? It was like going back to 12.
Before or after which George was on.
No, George's sitting there right now going, he had local admin rights?
Okay, but the other one was, since Howard knew me and everything, he used to email me and said, at 5 o'clock on, I think it was a Tuesday or Wednesday, he says, "I'm locked down my computer." So I called Moshe and everything. I guess Moshe, could you do me a favor, call Howard, unlock his account and everything. So Moshe calls Howard, unlocks it. Howard says, "I don't know my password. It's not working." Moshe resets his password, and he says, "I'll email it to you." He knows it's his finance account, which is locked down.
There's actually a Dilbert cartoon that is exactly this.
This is Finance's version of Abacus Excel, who's on first, what's on second. Okay?
Still doing that.
Howard goes and says, "I can't get to it. Email to Microsoft." We can't email to Microsoft because it's not under finance jurisdiction, so we can't give it to you. So Howard says, "Can you get to my phone?" "No, we can't because we don't know who you are." I think it goes back and forth. I think the next day Howard calls me. I just go over and unlock and give him his password, and he was fine. But
Elliot to the rescue many times. So here's our real hero up here. So he comes and bails us out. Thanks, Elliot.